My name is Erin Gray, and I'm an actress mostly known for Buck Rogers in the 25th century. Erin Gray seemed to have everything. A beautiful model who became a TV star and made millions playing Colonel Wilma Deering in Buck Rogers. But behind the cameras was a nightmare that started when she was just 10 months old. Her own father did something so mean it would hurt her for decades. Then came the stepfather, who did terrible things that should never happen, and a 22-year marriage that almost destroyed her. Today, we're telling the shocking truth about what really happened to the woman who inspired so many people. Erin Gray was born on January 7, 1950 in Honolulu. Back then, it was still just a territory of Hawaii, not a U.S. state yet. Her parents, Daniel and Diane, seemed to have a perfect life. Her father worked as a businessman, and her mother was a photographer. From the outside, everything looked like paradise. But behind closed doors, things were very different. Daniel was mean to both Erin and her mother. What should have been a happy childhood under palm trees and sunshine became a time full of fear and emotional pain. That picture of a happy Hawaiian home fell apart before Erin even became a teenager. When she turned 8, Erin's life changed completely. Mother made the hard decision to leave her husband, taking Erin with her. They didn't just leave a man. They left behind their home, their friends, and everything they knew. It wasn't a clean break. It was an escape. Diane ran away with her daughter to keep her safe from more abuse. At 8 years old, Erin had to say goodbye to her father, her school, and her island home all at once. For a child just starting to understand the world, it was a huge loss. Her feeling of safety was gone, and the road ahead would not be any easier. Their next stop was Palm Springs, California. Erin moved in with her grandparents while her mother worked to rebuild their lives. Palm Springs felt like a different world. The green tropical landscapes of Hawaii were replaced by dry desert winds. Instead of feeling protected, Erin felt alone. Her mother was not around much during those years. She was left with her grandparents, trying to get used to a place that felt cold and strange. The change was hard. The emotional wounds from her father's abuse were still fresh, and now she had to face a completely different place without her mother being there every day. Later, when her mother got married again, Erin was brought to live in Larkspur in Marin County. But instead of comfort and stability, this move brought more pain. Her stepfather sexually abused her. The home that was supposed to be her safe place became another nightmare. Erin reached her breaking point. One day, trying desperately to protect herself, she grabbed a knife and told him she would kill him if he ever touched her again. She was just a child, but she had already survived more than most adults could imagine. That moment didn't end the trauma, but it showed how far she was willing to go to protect herself when no one else would. Through all this pain, Erin never gave up on herself. At school, she did really well. She went to Redwood High School and later finished her last semester at Pacific Palisades High School. Despite the chaos at home, she kept going. She got accepted to UCLA with plans to study mathematics, one of the hardest subjects anyone can choose. For someone who had lived through physical abuse, sexual trauma, and multiple moves, this was an amazing achievement. It showed how smart and determined she really was. But just when her path seemed set, Erin made a bold move. She left college. She didn't fail out or drop out because of trouble. She chose to chase a dream. It started with a chance meeting. She was 15 years old in 1965 when she met Nina Blanchard. Blanchard was one of the most powerful modeling agents in Los Angeles. She had already discovered stars like Cheryl Tiegs and Rene Russo. When she met Erin, something clicked. Erin realized she didn't want to sit in a math class anymore. She wanted something bigger. She was still in high school, but her mind was already made up. She would chase the dream. But her first big break had actually happened a little earlier. When she was just 14, she entered a modeling contest in St. Louis. She had no training and no experience. Still, she won. That one contest gave her the confidence she needed. She was offered her first modeling job, and it opened doors that hadn't even existed before. Soon she was doing commercial work in Los Angeles. Then she set her sights on New York. She made the move as a teenager, leaving California behind. This wasn't like today, with texts and video calls. This was the 1960s. When you left, you were really gone. She gave up college, gave up stability, and took the leap into one of the toughest businesses in the world. But she didn't just survive, she did great. In just a few years, she was one of the top models in New York. She was part of a small group of young women who would go on to become icons. Farrah Fawcett, Veronica Hamill, and Susan Blakely were all in the same modeling world. They worked together. They competed against each other. They filmed commercials for Breck, Clairol, Max Factor, and Camay. Erin wasn't just keeping up, she was standing out. Her English leather commercial became famous. She looked straight at the camera and said the line that would follow her for years. My men wear English leather or they wear nothing at all. By 1975, she wasn't just famous. She was rich. At 25 years old, she was making $100,000 a year. That was nearly 9 times what most American families earned. In today's money, it would be around $570,000 a year. This wasn't an accident. She didn't come from wealth or special connections. She had no connections in the business. She built her career from nothing but talent and hard work. That money gave her freedom. She could choose what job she wanted. She didn't have to chase roles just to survive. That freedom made it possible for her to take risks later in acting without the pressure of needing a paycheck hanging over her head. In the mid-1970s, a single line on television changed everything for Erin Gray. Standing in front of the camera, she said it with a calm confidence that was impossible to ignore. My men wear English leather, or they wear nothing at all. That moment became one of the most famous in advertising history. The timing was bold. America was still conservative, but the commercial dared to flirt with something more daring. Gray's delivery was smooth and elegant, but also bold. It wasn't just a cologne ad, it was a cultural moment. Suddenly, Gray wasn't just a model. She became a national fantasy. Sales of English leather went through the roof, and so did her fame. That one sentence changed her from a familiar face into a household name. Her image was everywhere. She had become unforgettable. Long before she wore a space uniform, Erin Gray had already conquered American television through commercials. She worked for some of the biggest names: Breck, Max Factor, Clairol, Camay Soap, and RC Cola. Each brand saw something special in her. For Breck, she was the all-American beauty with perfect hair. For Max Factor, she was elegance. With Clairol, she felt natural. Camay wanted her freshness. RC Cola chose her for her energy and friendliness. It was like she could become anyone. Viewers saw her during nearly every commercial break. Advertisers loved how adaptable she was. They called her the chameleon of commercials. In just one ad break, she could go from glamorous to playful to serious without missing a beat. She made it look easy. That range made her not just a successful model, but one of the most trusted faces on television. In 1971, something happened that would echo across generations. A young copywriter wrote a line for L'Oreal, "Because I'm worth it." Erin Gray was the first woman to ever speak it on screen. Her tone was confident but warm. Unlike most beauty ads, this one didn't tell women they needed fixing. It told them they were enough, that they deserved quality. And when Gray said it, women listened. It wasn't just marketing anymore. It felt like a promise. The message spread quickly, reaching women in dozens of countries. It was translated into over 40 languages. The campaign became one of the most successful and longest-running slogans in beauty history. Gray's voice helped start a new era of self-empowerment in advertising, all by believing in the words she was saying. That ad was more than a job. It was a movement. Around 1975, Erin Gray signed a deal that shocked the fashion world. Bloomingdale's offered her a 10-year contract. That kind of long-term agreement was almost unheard of in modeling. Most contracts lasted weeks, maybe months, but this one gave Gray a full decade of steady work. She became the face of Bloomingdale's, showing up in print ads, on television, and even in-store promotions. While she was at the top of the modeling world, Erin Gray was quietly preparing for something bigger. She started taking acting lessons with a respected teacher named Warren Robertson. Very few people knew. During the day, she worked with brands like Breck, Max Factor, and Clairol. At night, she studied scripts and trained her voice. Even with a modeling income of over $100,000 a year, she knew the spotlight wouldn't last forever. The next chapter began to open in 1978. Gray landed a role in a television miniseries called Evening in Byzantium. It was 4 hours long and aired in 2 parts. She played opposite Glenn Ford, a seasoned movie star. The story was about terrorists using hijacked planes to bomb American cities during the Cannes Film Festival. Back then, the idea sounded far-fetched. After September 11th, it felt hauntingly real. Critics later said the film seemed to predict the future. For Gray, it was a tough role. She had scenes with big names like Shirley Jones and Eddie Albert. She was 36 years younger than Ford, which many noticed, but she held her own. Her performance showed depth, timing, and strength. She didn't just keep up, she added something fresh. The film got mixed reviews, but Gray got attention. Studios started to see her differently. They saw potential. That potential became reality when Universal Studios offered her a deal she never expected. After her role in Evening in Byzantium and earlier appearances in Police Story and Gibbsville, the studio offered her a 7-year exclusive contract. That kind of long-term deal was rare, especially for someone who had only recently switched careers. It meant steady work and a clear path forward. At the time, Gray had just given birth to her daughter. Most people slow down after becoming a parent. She was speeding up. The contract started at $600 per week, but promised increases as she landed. Bigger roles. When producers began casting for Buck Rogers in the 25th century, they weren't sure about Erin Gray. She was known as a model, and some questioned whether she could handle a complex science fiction role. The part was demanding. Colonel Wilma wasn't just a pretty face. She was supposed to be strong, smart, and a leader. Gray was 28 when she auditioned, and she knew the pressure. If she didn't get this role, the momentum she'd built might slip away. But she made it unforgettable. Wilma Deering wasn't like other female characters on TV. She was a colonel, not a sidekick. She wore the same uniforms as male officers, carried weapons, and gave commands. She was serious, focused, and powerful. Gray said she had to mentally step into that strength. She learned to act like a leader. That role changed everything. Women saw her and believed they could lead too. Her presence was strong. It wasn't loud or flashy, just steady and unshakable. For 1979, that was rare. Most women on TV were assistants or love interests. Gray was different. She was in charge. The role demanded more than just acting. Gray filmed 12 to 14 hours a day. The spandex suits she wore cost around $1,500 each, but they were tight and difficult to move in. Breathing wasn't easy during action scenes, especially under hot studio lights. She stayed calm even when it felt like the costume was squeezing her. She had to learn how to fight, run, and perform stunts in clothes that barely let her breathe. She didn't complain. She showed up, did the work, and proved she could handle the same physical challenges as her male co-stars. But not everything behind the scenes was smooth. Gil Gerard, who played Buck Rogers, started clashing with the writers. He felt like the scripts were focusing too much on the female characters. He believed they were pushing him aside. Writers said he stopped following the comedic tone and began rewriting scenes on set. Budgets were tight. They reused props from other shows and cut corners to save money. The set lost energy. The show's direction became uneven. Yet, Gray stayed professional. Even as things became chaotic, she stayed grounded and committed to her role. Despite the troubles, the show made history. Gray's performance left a mark. Fans came up to her years later, saying she inspired them to join the military, become scientists, or pursue leadership roles. The series only lasted 2 seasons, but the impact was long-lasting. After playing the confident and fearless Colonel Wilma Deering in Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, Erin Gray was seen as a symbol of strength and authority. But in 1982, she made a complete shift. She joined Silver Spoons as Kate Summers Stratton, a soft-spoken, well-dressed stepmother living in a wealthy household. The change was not just about clothes or dialogue. It was about changing how people saw her. Instead of commanding a spaceship, she was now helping raise a young boy and managing a career in business. To Gray, both roles were forms of strength. One showed women could lead troops in the future. The other showed women could handle family life and work life in the present. The role of Kate came at a time when women were being told they could do everything. They could be amazing at work, raise children, and stay happy at home. Kate seemed to do all of that with ease. But Erin Gray, behind the scenes, was far from balanced. She was a single mother to her son Kevin, born in 1976. While the cameras showed her managing a perfect home, in real life, she was running on empty. Long filming hours, travel, and pressure to perform left her physically and emotionally exhausted. It was one thing to act like you had it all. It was another to live it without breaking down. The contrast between the idealized woman she played and the struggles she was actually facing created a deep emotional weight she carried quietly. Working on Silver Spoons wasn't always smooth. While the show had great chemistry on screen between Gray, Ricky Schroeder, and Joel Higgins, there were personal challenges underneath. Gray was under intense stress. During one shoot, her body gave out. She had such a severe cold that she had to be sent home, the first time that had ever happened in her career. At the same time, she had to maintain her professionalism while working. With a child actor who already had star status in Hollywood, it added another layer of pressure. Still, decades later, in 2013, the cast reunited for an event at New York's Friars Club. Higgins was 69, Gray was 63. They laughed together, roasted Schroeder, and showed that even through the challenges, something real had formed between them. Her private life, however, was darker than anyone on set could guess. Erin Gray had married Ken Schwartz in 1968. What began as a high school romance turned into a long nightmare. Their marriage lasted 22 years, but much of it was marked by emotional and physical abuse. What made it worse was that this wasn't new. Pain. Gray had already lived through abuse as a child. Her stepfather had harmed her in ways that would shape how she saw love and trust. So when her husband began taking control, not just emotionally, but professionally, it felt familiar in the worst way. He moved to Los Angeles to manage her career after she gained fame from Buck Rogers. What looked like a supportive gesture was actually the start of deeper control. Her work, her money, her choices, everything became his to handle. Her success only made the abuse easier to hide and harder to escape. The birth of her son, Kevin, in 1976 made things even more complicated. Like many women in abusive marriages, Gray stayed not for herself, but for her child. She feared losing him, feared disrupting his life. For a while, she and Schwartz lived in separate cities. That distance gave her a bit of relief, but it also meant choosing between being with her son in New York or chasing her dreams in Los Angeles. The more she succeeded, the more power her husband had over her. He knew her fears. He used them. She later admitted she didn't even realize how trapped she was. The guilt, the need to protect her child, and the belief that leaving might make things worse. It kept her locked in place for 14 more years. Things took a darker turn when Schwartz officially became her manager. That gave him control over not only her home life, but also her career. He decided who she worked with. He handled her earnings. And because he was seen as her business representative, most people in the industry dealt with him, not her. This gave him enormous power and made it almost impossible for Gray to seek help without risking her job. In many abusive relationships, the abuser controls the money, the work, and the support systems. That's exactly what happened here. Her fame didn't protect her. In some ways, it made her more trapped. Her image in public stayed strong, successful, and happy. But privately, she was falling apart. By 1990, she couldn't take it anymore. She was 40 years old. She had a career, a son, and a collapsing inner world. She filed for divorce. It wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the end of her entire support system. Her business manager, her financial planner, and the person who knew every detail of her life. She had guest roles on shows like Murder, She Wrote, Hotel, and Hunter, but she had to rebuild everything. Her professional contacts, her financial control, and most importantly, her self-worth. It wasn't easy. The emotional collapse that came before the divorce was so intense. A friend had to drive her to a women's shelter called Haven House. There, she finally got counseling that helped her understand what she had been living through. It wasn't just bad luck or tough love. It was abuse. After her painful divorce in 1990, Erin Gray didn't think love would find her again so soon. But in 1991, she married Richard Hissong, a talented cinematographer she had met while working on the show Silver Spoons. Hissong had already built a strong career behind the camera on projects like Soap and Legends of the Superheroes. Their bond grew quickly, rooted in shared creativity and understanding. Now, after 34 years together, their marriage stands as proof that healing is possible even after trauma. This partnership gave Erin the emotional strength to move forward with advocacy and rebuild her life on her own terms. Later that same year, on December 21, 1991, their daughter Samantha was born. She grew up surrounded by cameras, scripts, and a mother who had become a science fiction icon. As she got older, Samantha stepped into the world that made her mother famous. In a Buck Rogers web series, she played the character Maddie, the love interest of Buck Rogers in the pilot. The role created a bridge between generations. Samantha, now 33 years old, brought new life to her mother's legacy and proved that the Gray family still had a place in the universe that fans had cherished for decades. Beyond acting, Erin found a new calling in advocacy. She joined the board of the Innocent Lives Foundation, a group that helps track down online predators and gives critical evidence to law enforcement worldwide. The organization started by social engineer Chris Hadnagy works quietly but powerfully with governments and police agencies alongside leaders like Timothy Maloney, Dr. Kathy Mathai, and Douglas Ash. Erin plays a key role in pushing their mission forward. With just 5 staff members and over 35 volunteers, The group has already helped in hundreds of cases. Erin's involvement showed she wasn't just speaking out for change. She was actively working to make it happen. Through her work with the foundation, Erin also began sharing shocking numbers that most people never hear. According to the United Nations, nearly 40% of all trafficking victims around the world are children. But experts believe the real number is even higher. In 2023, the European Union alone recorded more than 10,700 trafficking victims, an increase of nearly 7% from previous years. Even worse, 79% of trafficking cases involve sexual exploitation, with most victims being women and girls. Criminals use AI tools to stay hidden while the justice system struggles to keep up. The statistics are horrifying, and Erin has made it her mission to make sure the world pays attention. Erin's courage hasn't gone unnoticed. Over the past 10 years, she has received awards and recognition for her fight against domestic violence and her work protecting children. She often speaks at events and uses her platform to help survivors find their voice. She's not just giving speeches, she's on the front lines, working with groups like the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the Innocent Lives Foundation. These honors reflect more than just her Hollywood fame. They recognize her strength in turning personal pain into something powerful for others. But Erin's life took another unexpected turn. She became a certified Tai Chi and Tai Chi sword instructor, teaching at places like UCLA and the Wushu Kung Fu Academy. She teaches 3 days a week at the Encino Acupuncture Center and has even created 2 companies called Wu Wei and Wu Wei, built around the idea of finding peace through effortless action. For Erin, it wasn't about trying something trendy. It was a full transformation. She used her own journey through Eastern philosophy to guide others toward healing and balance. In 1998, she teamed up with Mara Pearl to write a book called Act Right, a manual for the on-camera actor. The book quickly won an EVA award and became a guide for young performers. Erin wasn't trying to sell a flashy memoir. She was handing down the hard-earned wisdom from her years in front of the camera. The book even got a revised version in 2002, proving that her insight had lasting value. This work showed she wasn't done shaping the next generation of actors. She was just getting started. She also saw a business opportunity others missed. She launched Heroes for Hire, a company that helped sci-fi and fantasy celebrities book appearances and events. Erin understood both sides. She knew what performers needed and what promoters struggled with. Her company does everything from setting schedules to handling hotel bookings and pressed out. What started as a way to help friends became a thriving business. It gave performers the support they needed and helped connect fans with the stars they loved. Despite her fame, Erin's financial story might surprise some. Her current net worth is around $5 million. In 1975, she was earning $100,000 a year as a model, working with brands like L'Oreal and Bloomingdale's. Later, her roles in Buck Rogers and Silver Spoons made her a household name. But television in that era didn't pay like it does now. Her rank among America's wealthiest sits at number 7,424. This may be why she turned to entrepreneurship and teaching, using her experience to create new income sources. Her story is a reminder that fame doesn't always equal fortune, and that smart reinvention is key to long-term success. Erin's interest in Taoism shaped more than her business. It changed her life. She embraced the Taoist idea of Wu Wei, which means following the natural flow of life. She began practicing traditional meditation, key cultivation, and mindfulness, shifting her focus from Hollywood competition to inner peace. She also adopted the 3 treasures of Taoism, Jing, Qi, and Shen, into her personal belief system. This change wasn't a phase. It became the core of how she lived, worked, and taught. At 75 years old, Erin Gray still meets her fans. In 2009, she was seen at the Big Apple Comic-Con, smiling and greeting those who remembered her as Colonel Wilma Deering. Her connection with fans goes back decades. She started modeling at 15 and by 25 had already lived through intense highs and lows. She once described that year as full of both laughter and tears. Her continued presence at conventions is about more than reliving the past. It's about honoring the people who supported her for more than 40 years. Her daughter Samantha has also stepped into the entertainment world, but in her own way. Instead of acting, she works behind the scenes in animation. She's contributed to top-rated shows like Rick and Morty, Tuca and Birdie, and Final Space. Her roles have ranged from key animator to storyboard artist and revisionist. Working on Rick and Morty, which has a rating of 9.1 on IMDb, placed her at the center of a major pop culture phenomenon. Samantha's path looks different than her mother's, but the spirit of creativity and persistence runs strong in both of them.